Ding. All right, that did the trick. Now we just have to wait 1 minute. It's okay. Here we go. Okay, now everyone is in. And if I put it like this, I can see everybody.
Hello.
Hey. All right. A little
That's
delay, but we managed.
Ah, good. Finally.
Then you can mute yourselves again.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
we'll get in it. Otherwise, it might get late. All right. Okay. This week, we are going to dive in to parts work and a new perspective on our fragmentation and how to work with it, basically. So it's not really, how do I say, different, and it is different at the same time. So I hope that as I'm explaining this, you'll start to understand. But as we start, I do like to start at the beginning. So as we know, fragmentation is what happens to our consciousness when we encounter a trauma. That can be something physical, but that can also be something emotional that is just too strong in intensity for us to be able to handle, and that causes a split in our consciousness. That means that one part of the consciousness stream kind of comes to the front and is what we adopt as our survival mechanism. And the other part basically disappears in our subconscious, but it's never really gone, and it influences us greatly in many, many ways. And so once we start learning about this, once people become aware of it, we see it as like a big flaw or that we are broken, but it is not. It is just a response that helps us survive. And also, we like to think as things being very solid. And so when we think like that happens, we think of something that breaks. Let me just check 1 minute with everything. Did I put the recording on? Yes, sorry. I didn't want to leave you guys without the recording. Having to start again. I was for 1 second scared that it might not be okay. And now the sun has already left, so I'll just turn on some more light. Yes, that's better. That way I can still see what I'm saying. Okay, so sorry for the interruption, but what I was saying is we shouldn't think of it so much as something that's solid that then breaks in two parts. It's more like a stream, and if a stream splits into two streams, you don't think the stream is broken. The stream just split into two. Or we've already covered fascia. If you think of fascia, and if you've looked at like the video of how the fascia works, you see it just develops these new lines basically, and those lines, they converge and go out of each other and come back to each other, and it's like this liquid that just kind of can reshape itself. Try to think of it more like that. And of course, every part that is formed is some kind of an adaptation, often a protection or a coping mechanism. And it just existed because it didn't know how else to function. So it's always doing the best that it can. So our goal is not to try to fix or to fight these parts. It is to learn to meet them and to understand them. And to learn what's really going on with them and what they need, learn to give them what they need, and help to create a better function for themselves, a better way of functioning, of coexisting with you. And of course, a lot of that depends on what kind of a part that we're dealing with, because that spectrum can be very wide. And so we have to be very adaptable in our approach to each specific part. And to understand our different parts, we must take on their perspective. I already touched upon this in an earlier lesson, where it's very important that we learn to really get into someone else's perspective and not project our own perspective onto them, onto what we believe they need, onto what we think is right for them, but to really go in that perspective and really take that perspective and figure out from there what is necessary and not just what we think is what they need. Because if we want to help them, we need to be able to hold their perspective with our presence of things like active neutrality, softness, groundedness, and stability. All of these qualities that you will hear me mention over and over and over again, no matter what chapter that we were in. And that's because all of these things all build onto the same thing. It's because all of these qualities are really at the basis of everything. That's why we practice. That's why this is a development. And when we can meet them with that quality of the space that we hold for them, and the energy with which you approach them, that is the greatest importance on whether or not they will be willing to work with you. Now, there is this idea that we need to become whole again, that all of these parts, they need to be unified into one fully whole thing, and that all this fragmentation is like a very bad and negative thing. And even if you just look at the word healing, that literally comes from the meaning of wanting to be whole again. And so at the basis of all of that is like the unification of all of those parts. But again, usually that comes with this undercurrent and this unspoken implication that something is broken to begin with. And this is really like the difference between integrating and unification in the form of uniformity. It's really not about all of these different parts becoming like one big homogeneous unified blob, let's say. It's more like I heard this from Tio also recently, where it's like more like your essence is in the center of the wheel and your parts are like the spokes, and like you have like the wheel on the outside. So it's more like that, whereas your essence is properly rooted in the center, and those different parts and aspects of yourself are working harmoniously. You kind of have a nice wheel that can fluidly turn, let's say. Unfortunately, that's not how for most people the parts are. They're not like nicely differentiated, let's say. There is a lot of chaos and broken spokes. I don't like the term broken, but for the metaphor, we can say it. So it's not about like everything just becoming this one thing and not having different aspects and not having different parts to it, but more of like, what are different parts and how do we use them coherently and harmoniously? Because that's how life works. You know, when we incarnated, it's like we were this beam of white light that then goes through a prism in incarnation, and that's basically how the rainbow of the chakras exists. So just by your incarnation you become fragmented, but every one of these chakras has their purpose and their function, and as they're all working nicely together, you're a healthy and well-functioning human being. So it's not like you're gonna judge your kidneys for not being like your heart, and that because they function differently. No, you need their differences, otherwise you would die. If you wouldn't have kidneys, you would like poison yourself within a few days. If you don't have a heart, like the blood isn't going anywhere and you won't live for a few minutes anymore. But you need both of them to sustain you. So we need these different parts of ourselves to sustain all of who we are. And you need them all to do their job and work together harmoniously with all of the rest of the body. And that goes for those parts as well. So try to think of like parts and shadow work more of like time travel for integration and for making improvements you couldn't make back in time, to create more of your colorful and multi-dimensional self that has many aspects and many fragments, but they work together harmoniously. Sorry. Does that make sense? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes. Have you thought of it more like this before? Than more of the like, I need to heal myself, something's wrong with me. I need to bring just all of these things together so they don't have any more inner conflicts. More than now trying to look at it like, actually, it's quite fabulous. I have all these different aspects to myself. It's just a matter of employing each one to what they're good at. Um, and that then brings me kind of to explaining a little bit more what parenting ourselves actually means. Because we tend to think that we don't know how to do this, because we get, so overwhelmed by the parts of ourselves that are like very distressed, usually the ones that have gone more to the background, that are more in the subconscious suppression. And because they're all the way in the background, then when they get activated and triggered and so on, they tend to lash out, and we tend to really feel like we don't have much control over them because they're coming from this place we cannot reach. They're not really in the conscious part, they're in the subconscious part. And so whenever they give reactions, it's very easy for us to identify, all of us, with this. And so we go to, I am so overwhelmed, instead of, there is something inside of me that feels like it's overwhelmed. So the biggest practice that we can do for ourselves is, we have to, it's two fronts. We have to learn to think differently about this. Like I said, just frame our thoughts and our words differently, so that we choose words that are less fully identified with it. But also, and that's probably the more, not specifically the more important part, but the part that most people then really miss, is to practice the embodiment of the qualities and the space. And I'm once again here with these qualities that I just like: the softness, the presence, the holding the attention, the active neutrality, the groundedness, the stability. And as I was writing this, I was like, people are really gonna start hating me if I keep on hammering on that. But it's like, if you want to make music, there are a million songs out there, millions and millions and millions of songs, and they're basically all written with the same 7 notes. And yes, you have like the half notes and everything, but even with the half notes and with some special like aerobic, you have the pentatonic scale as well. So there are a few variations, but in the end, not many. Like in the end, maybe what you have, like everything together, you have 7 and you have 5, that's 13, and then maybe like some kind of strange extra scale. So it's limited in its essence because it's so important, and you can create everything out of these specific qualities. Basically, they hold the key to basically everything, just like all the notes hold the key to making music. And so it's really training like a muscle, like learning to play that violin, really develop all of these qualities, to feel them in the body, to hold them in the body, to hold space for them. And that takes practice. And there is only so much direct instructions that can be given. You can say, place your hands like this, do that exercise like that. But the theoretical part of that is just quite limited, because it's like, yeah, take this position or take that position, do it like this, do it like that. But it is the training, it is the practice that makes it into something that is developing the art and the feeling. It's like learning to dance. You can learn all the steps, but if you just know the steps, it's like not really a dance. You have to like develop the feeling and the grace and bring all the different steps together and getting fluent in it and learning how to think about it and move through it. And it's exactly like that if you want to learn how to self-parent, because every situation, like I said, will have to be adaptable. You always have to meet what comes up. And if you become a very good violin player or a very good dancer, then you can really improvise and harmoniously play together or dance together with whoever becomes your partner that you're playing with or dancing with. And then you can meet any emotion with that presence. You can give the care and that clarity to that part that you wish you've had. But for that, we really have to build that inner capacity first and of all to hold that space so you can be in control with your active neutrality and with your presence, with your attention, with with stability, so you're not easily swayed by anything that's said to you or thrown at you. So it's really, really something that you develop inside of yourself. And that's basically what you do first before you actually go and address these for a lack of better word, needy parts. The parts that are really like struggling or really needing you to be very stable, to be very present, that are very fragile, that are very sad and emotional and just can't take much. It's like my friend who teaches, one of my teachers who taught me essence through horses, she posted a message the other day and was like, oh yeah, she like they did that with us like at some point as well. And it was like a cute reminder. She had to teach like some students who were like doing like horse management or something, and she brought a violin, and then she said, well, here, if you want to learn to play the violin, who are you going to train, yourself or the violin? And then everybody, of course, says, well, yes, of course, you train yourself. And then she says, like, well, okay, if you want to work with a horse, who are you going to train, yourself or the horse? And then people go like, oh, because for some reason, we then think we're going to need to train that horse. That horse knows how to run. That horse was running hours after he was born. It's that idea that we have that's something else that's going to need to develop or need to change or need to be fixed, that's outside of ourselves, instead of developing the qualities within ourselves to the point where we can actually be on the level of the horse and communicate with the level on the level of the horse. For that horse doesn't need to learn anything. It's us who need to develop to basically get there. And that's kind of the thing that we have to do if we want to do parts work with these very fragile, scared, traumatized little parts that have gone away because they were the ones that really couldn't survive. But at the same time, you know and can do more than you give yourself credit for. And there is a lot of hidden gold, in our dysfunctional upbringings and in a lot of our fragments, because not all of our fragments are like that. And it's a matter of mining those and shining that so that you have access to that gold that's actually inside of you. Because not all of your parts are like super scared or super wounded, and some of them have like naturally developed strong parental qualities. You know, all of those protector parts, there are parts that are very nurturing, that carry a lot of inner wisdom. So it's about learning to tap into those to begin with. It's develop those embodiments in yourself and make sure that you learn to, focus your attention and your thinking more correctly in regards to that. That's one. But then number two, start with those parts that are not the most traumatized ever. Start with those that are actually strong. Start with those that are actually brave. Start with those that are actually like ready to go. And you have, or you should have by now already investigated what you consider good parental qualities. And so think of the parts of you that you use to care for others, that want to protect you, keep you safe, that are maybe ambitious, that want to make something of yourself. Scan yourself for those parts, name them, and start building relationships with them. And as you get to know them, you also get to teach them how to actually help you with their qualities, because you will find that they often are doing things that are not really benefiting you or not really helping you, even though that is their full intention. Problem is they're working off a very limited skill set, and they also developed in times of your life that you maybe didn't know what you know now. And just as I'm sorry. Just as those very traumatized parts are trapped in time, the protective parts are often also trapped in time and haven't really developed. So as you develop a relationship with them and you build that trust with them, you can start to teach them things. You can't ask them to do things differently because that would actually be more helpful. And they will be quite easily receptive to that as you bridge that gap of actually developing a relationship with them and getting to know them and understanding what their actual qualities are. So instead of focusing on the really problematic ones, start with those that are functioning much better so that they then can start picking up a lot of that other work. Like I had a session with someone, and I don't really remember the exact scenario that was happening, but I didn't forget the example that I gave her to try to show her what was actually going on, because there was two parts and they really didn't like each other, and it was like a small irresponsible child kind of thing, and then like a part that was like the responsible one, and they really resented her because this one was like always irresponsible and just doing whatever she wanted, and this one was like, I don't like you because I always have to like, you know, clean up your mess because you always do like irresponsible, and then I have to take the fall for it. And they was just like going like this, and I was like, but it's like, if you this is like just like a child. It's just very normal. Children, they are not supposed to have a lot of like responsibility, and like it's like, I want to make cookies, and then nobody's there to help that child make cookies. So like, yeah, after a few hours, like, I'm hungry and I want cookies, and then she just goes in the kitchen and she takes some kind of chair and she like takes some flour and like just start taking things, and like it's just like the whole kitchen is full of flour and eggs and shit, and it's like an explosion and all over the floor and all over the thing, because that child is like wanting to bake cookies. And then this one is, but now I have to clean up the entire kitchen, and I always am the one that have to clean up your mess. Blah, blah, blah. Why didn't you help to make her cookies? If you would have worked together, then you could have shown her how to bake cookies, and you would actually in the end have nice cookies to eat, because now nobody gets anything. This one gets to clean up a mess, and this one still hasn't had her cookies. So if you at least can like get in touch with this one and talk with this one and say, oh, well, if this one wants to make cookies, help her. It's a lot more fun and a lot less work than having to clean up the mess. And it just solves your whole problem, and you have no work in the end anymore. And everybody's happy, and they're cookies. So it's like the best win scenario ever. And it's important that we start thinking more like that. So there is a bunch of homework. We will, of course, also make practice in the practice session on Wednesday. But try to start asking yourself some questions that can reveal some of these parts that are more easy to connect with, and that actually are strong enough to start helping you. And then kind of can start acting like more inner parents and can take some of that work off your hands. Ask yourself questions, and I will send the document to you guys later or tomorrow. Which part of me like knows how to care for others? Which part of me knows how to stay calm under pressure? Which part of me feels mature or wise? Which part of me wants to protect others from pain? And these are just a few examples. You can, come up with your own questions according to your own values, what you think are qualities of a good parent that you can investigate. And, just that's like a first to get some kind of baseline, write down whatever comes up. You don't have to be sure, just like kind of notice and like, oh, there's something there, just notes so that you can kind of return to that. So this is not like in depth. This is more like making a checklist of what is available. And then, once you kind of know what's available, you can really try to connect deeper. It's like and take one at a time. Okay. Because the hardest thing about parts work is switching between parts. It's the opening yourself to that extent that you can fully channel that part, fully embody that part, so you can fully take the perspective of it and get so far out of your own way, give it access to all of you, basically, for it to show you and let you experience everything that you need to know and feel and see about this. And that's not the easiest thing to do for most people. So if you want to do parts work by yourself, just focus on one part at a time. So once you have your list, it's okay, I'm gonna try one, and you open yourself fully up to one. We'll go into how to do that again in the practice session, but you can try. I know you both have done parts work with me before, so you have already a pretty good idea. But yeah, then just really open yourself up and bring it into focus. Try to embody it as much as you can so you can connect with it as deep as you can. And again, try to name it. Try to figure out if it has a name. If it doesn't really have a name, you can name it yourself. You can ask, do you like this name? Would that be okay? It's important for me that I get clarity. So if I can give everybody else a different name, that will work much easier and much better for you to get clarity. Because as long as you're in like, I am little me, it's so much harder. And often with like protector parts, it's easier because they don't identify as much usually with you. They're like more outspoken, usually a little bit more, that the more hurt parts, they're like more like the little versions of ourselves. The protector parts, they usually take a bit more of a eccentric identity. So if you can name them so that you can literally communicate with them, and you just, in the end, you will only have to think of the name, like, I need this one. I need to connect with this one. If it has like a clear name that's different from your personal name, that will help you greatly into getting that wheel in order, basically getting those spokes into place. So you can do this in agreement with them. Even if they identify with your personal name, ask if it's okay if you give them a nickname, and you will address them with your nickname, just for you to have that clarity really on who is who and what part is what part. And then, just get to know them and bring their communication into reality. You can write, you can use voice notes, you can use video to film yourself with your phone or your computer, but really allow them to express themselves so you can read it or watch it or listen to it later again when you're back fully in your perspective. Because if you're like constantly trying to even shift between your own perspective and their perspective, it's so much harder to fully embody it. So it's so much easier to say, like I'm doing right now, I put my camera up here, I put it on, and I go into channeling mode, and I'm going to film myself. I'm going to invite this part in and say, just tell whatever you want to tell to whoever you want to tell. I listen to it afterwards. I'll make sure that whoever needs to listen to it afterwards, I will pass it on. And that just makes the whole process easier. If you're not like comfortable with video, or you want to speak, you don't really like speaking, or sometimes it's good to have options ready to put the camera up, but also maybe put a piece of paper ready, because some parts might feel more comfortable writing than speaking. I've had to deal with parts that weren't even using words, and I've just had to communicate by somebody who was shaking their head yes and no. But then we're dealing with very, very young children parts, and that's not what we're like tapping into right now. Now we're tapping into like more functional parts, stronger parts, all of these things. So with what we're working here, these 3 types of communication, they should just be fine. But you could like make sure that you have both pen and paper and recording ready, just to see whatever they prefer to go into, whether they want to speak to the camera or start writing, because you really don't know. And then by what they are communicating with you, you can figure out what they're really good at and what their kind of like ideal internal position or function would be, and what you need to teach them, or what they need to be able to know to be able to do that properly. And you can build that relationship through, then if you've like watched their perspective, give them one back or write one back, and then have that here later on, or preferably like another day, or at least enough time in between, so that you then can bring that communication back to them, so they kind of like, okay, this person really bothered to watch my video, and they bothered to record me an answer. And you then watch that answer back from your channel parts work state. And this way, it's much easier, because you don't need to switch in one, out in the other. And you don't need to go like this. You just can do this and say, okay, I make this video. I am finished. I go about my day. Maybe tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to watch this video from the other perspective, from my personal perspective, or if there is an actual issue. But for now, I would just focus on your perspective as Eva or Andreas, the person who you are, the person who's trying to become a good parent to their inner world, basically. with certain strong parts that live in that inner world. You can do this between other parts, but then you risk already going into parts that are really, really struggling. And that might be a little bit over our heads right now. But if that happens, or you feel there's like a really need for that, something that's really pressing in there, you can possibly bring it to the coaching session to see if there's something that is like immediate action that we can take without diving really into it, or we can do it in a private session for that matter for now. And hopefully, as you get better and more comfortable with this and really good at doing this and building more capacity, then it will become easier to take on those very distressed parts and communicate with them and figure also out what they need. And then hopefully we'll have like already a better relationship with the stronger parts so that they can also insist and are much more receptive and open to helping with these other parts. So yeah, that is basically it in a nutshell, which is actually quite a lot. So yeah, if there are any questions about that or something that wasn't quite clear about that, sure, you can just raise your hands and I get to your questions. I will get some water first because this tickle in my throat isn't really going away. All right. Yeah. No more. Oh, yes, Eva, go ahead.
No, I have no questions. I was just going to
Okay.
ask, is the session then over or?
If nobody like if everything was explained clearly and I do not need to give any clarification on anything or answer any questions about the specific things that I talked about here, then yes, the session will be open and I will make sure that you get the notes from the session and the homework. Yeah.
What is again the web page?
Hmm?
Do you remember the web page that
Yes.
all the sessions are going to be in? Do you have it on the top of your mind?
You mean like
The address?
The address. I have it. I don't. I have it very close by hand.
I have it. I can give it in a second. Just
Yeah,
a moment.
I closed it here.
Yeah, it's here. Chuck.
I can get it as well. We
So
have it. Okay.
So I was first.
You were first. Okay, then I can stop clicking. Yeah, I had to log in again in my. I got thrown.
Ah,
All right. Yes. Then.
Okay.
now you have it. Yes.
Yes.
So we're done today.
Then I think if there's no further questions, then we're done for today.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
I'm going to leave. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Just a moment. Yeah. No, it's just that when I did parts work, always somebody else was channeling. So now to identify an entity, for me it sounds really. Oh, how should I do this? So it's really like.
You
Yeah.
begin with practicing.
Yeah.
How do you run a marathon? Do you think if I tell you you're gonna have to
Yeah,
run
yeah.
a marathon, it's the same thing?
But first you still. I've seen it as a spectator, but now I should do it. How? So, but okay, I can practice.
Yeah.
It's I do the first step and then the second and then see what
Yes.
happens. But that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not a question at all.
No, but that's okay.
Mm.
Um,
But you explained very good. Thank you.
Okay.
That was very clear. Yeah.
mm, it's just like start practicing. You will have this. You can look back at this many times. But like
Yeah, the thing
what you
is,
start,
okay, I can ask myself, when did I feel strong or when did I feel protecting others and so on, but then it's just a property, yeah? It's not an entity. You understand what I mean? It's not a personality for its own.
yeah, but that's not the question.
Yeah, tell me.
The question is like which part of me knows how to do this? Which part of me
Yeah,
feels like
that's
it's
what I
not like
meant. So
when
I
did I,
can,
it's important to
yeah,
pick the words right. Because if you
yeah,
sit in meditation and you ask, when did I feel like this? It will show you a time in your life when you felt like this. When you say
yes.
which part of myself,
Okay,
then it can bring that part forward.
good. Okay. So I never asked like this, and I never got that answer.
Yes. Look, and
Mm.
it's just there are guiding questions, and you might not find an answer to each one. That's okay. If you find one
Mm.
answer to one, that's where you can start with. And these are just example parts. That's why I said, like, if you made the homework of week 1, then you have now all of these qualities that you value in a parent. So then you can ask, which part of me feels like they can do this? Which part of me feels like they can do that?
Yeah.
These are just some examples, and you can make all of the questions with your personal values for what a good parent holds. Or just if that's even too hard, like which part feels like it wants to protect me, which part of me is like a very strong protector part, and just allow yourself
But that wasn't a question. So because I've seen so many Pathwork sessions with Peel on stage and so on, and I thought it's really fantastic. But then, yeah, do it by yourself is a totally different thing. So just this. I see. No, I see the purpose in it, yeah, and the value in it. So you don't have to explain me the value in it.
Mhm.
So I see it. So yeah, but how to? How to identify the parts, yeah, and yeah, really listen, and so on, so on, so on. Yeah, I
Yeah,
try,
and it's
but I
important
can't.
that you
I can't promise. Yeah, I can. I try.
look.
I have some doubts. Yeah. Mm.
The only thing that matters is that you make sure that you follow the steps and that you follow what is actually set out. Because if you don't, it will not work.
What?
Well,
Yeah,
here's the
follow
thing.
the step. Yeah, tell me.
If you how to say, first of all, if you go in with an attitude that it's not going to work, it's not going to work. If you're like not, if you're like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
But
yeah.
just wait. It's
I
just
heard it before. Yeah. Hmm.
it's one part, and it's important that, like, because you tend to go there, then you also like, I do something and it doesn't work, but you're not paying attention to what you're doing. You're not like
Yeah, maybe it's
like
also. No, you're right. Actually, I'm a little bit scared what to find. So let's be honest.
yeah, but
Uh,
we're not going to look for something scary. We're going to look for something helpful.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, good to know that we start here.
Yeah, that's why I say you have
Mhm.
to pay attention to do what I tell you to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
you're right.
if you have to learn to swim, you have to learn to swim in the kiddie pool with your like
Good,
floaties and everything. And
absolutely.
you
Okay,
don't want to jump in the middle of the ocean and drown.
good that we talk about it. So yeah. Okay, good.
And
But
that's why I
this
say
is a
you
very
have to do it
important
the way
clarification now.
you have to do it this way, because if you don't, you what you do is like the equivalent of trying to jump in the ocean and like out of a helicopter in the ocean in middle somewhere, and not to drown. But if you follow the different steps and just start by answering the questions and look for one answer
Good,
to the
good,
questions
good,
and take it from
good.
there and start then working with this, following the protocol and not just going off whatever, but
Fine,
protocol,
fine.
then you will have a chance, and you have to give yourself a chance for success. That's what I'm saying. If you go in with saying this will not work anyways, you're not giving yourself a chance for success. Then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy anyways.
Okay. Yeah, fine. I do it. Hmm.
You don't have to do it for me. You should
No, I don't.
want to do it for yourself, you know.
Yes, of course. Yeah, but it needs some bravery. So let's be honest. So, but then I am brave.
Look, if it helps and you want to do it for me, I will not stop you, and I have no problem. That's why we do accountability on Fridays. That's to help you be a little bit more
I
accountable
know.
and have a little bit of a stick behind the door. Um, but in the end, it's your responsibility to actually do it. And all I can say is like, you did it. Oh, you didn't do it. Okay, well, maybe
Yeah,
next week better. And it's just
fine. No. It's all fine. So I just wanted to present what's going on in me. So,
sure,
but
and like it's going to
good.
take time, you know.
Hmm, good.
Just like with everything, it's you're gonna have to grow in it. You're gonna have to develop it. The first time, it's super hard. Feels like nothing's coming. It feels just weird. It's hard, but it's with everything that you're learning and
Um,
doing.
there's one little thing, but I don't want to consume too much time.
So,
Um, you know, I once sent you a little short from here. It was a cut from her curveball in Costa Rica. Yeah, she was talking to the crowd there, and it was about sleeping while meditating. Can you remember? Can give it once more. I have it on my
mm,
hard drive.
but what is it as
Yeah,
human parts work?
uh, it has to do because somebody asked. He said every time I want to do parts work,
Yeah.
uh, I'm falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And is it because I'm so exhausted or what's going on? She just didn't know. And Teal said it's always the protection mechanism.
Yeah.
If she said it's a protection part or mechanism, it doesn't matter at all,
Mm,
because I discovered the same in me. Yeah, so this
mm,
weekend also I had a question and I wanted to meditate on it, and then even when I wasn't tired, but I was totally falling asleep. Yeah, so I think this is actually weird. So I was the one moment I was totally awake, and the next I was zoning out. So and there was something going on.
Yeah.
And even now, the whole evening, I'm so tired. I'm so often tired. And it's not physical or mental exhaustion. This must be something wrong.
Yeah, so falling asleep during meditation and these kind of practices, I see it with fascia therapy all the time. It literally is when you're confronted with a resistance.
Yeah, yeah.
It is sorry.
And you see, I guess it has to
Because
do with work.
it's because the resistance is there to cover up something that it perceives as dangerous, or
Yeah,
not necessarily dangerous, but like what's behind it is so vulnerable that it is perceived dangerous. Like this resistance is a protection for it, so for to break this resistance is considered dangerous. Do you understand?
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I'm working in the fascia, I'm going to this resistance, and it's the same mechanism that happens. It's like people who are in a car and who go or in like a car, like sometimes you're in an accident and you can see you're
Yeah,
going and you cannot do
you
anything.
told me before, yeah.
Yeah.
And the moment before they hit
Yeah,
the tree,
you see like you're on the ice and the car is going and you cannot steer anymore and you're going to crash into the tree. Your consciousness will just leave before.
yeah,
So it's less traumatic because you were not as aware of what happened. And it's kind of the same protection mechanism that activates, where it says like, oh, if they get through this layer, it's going to be traumatic.
yep.
So that's kind of what happens. That's why you kind of fall asleep. That's why you lose consciousness. It's always that mechanism
Yep.
that basically happens.
Yeah, but you asked me what does it have to do with the password? It has a lot of
Yes,
to do,
yes,
yeah.
yes. But when you said, and now I understand that it like,
Yeah,
yeah, when that happens, um,
and it happens a lot in me. So
yes, but
yeah,
then use the 7 levels deep to figure out why you're having so much resistance to it, or why you're perceiving this as such a dangerous thing if it keeps happening. Then then you have to investigate the resistance, and you have to investigate what's going on. Then you have to investigate what's the threat, and then you can actually address that. And then you can go like, okay, I understand you're very scared of this, but this is not actually what's going to happen. This is not a bad thing. I'm going to keep us safe. And we need actually access to this so that we can start improving our lives. And you work through it like this. But it's constantly conscious choices, and the lack of energy, it has a lot to do with the indeed so many resistance and so many kind of distortions that you need to maintain. And we all have these mechanisms that as long as we're going and we're doing, and it has to, and there's kind of like external stimulus, like I have to go to work and I have to do this and I have to do that and my boss is here, and it kind of turns on some kind of automatic pilot that bypasses all that stuff. But then when we come out of that and we come home, that kind of turns off. And then it's kind of like, I don't know, I get kind of
it's
like
the
this,
way I come. It's the minute I come home, then it's
kind of like
yeah.
this, I have like this image of like these sci-fi things where you sometimes have these like force fields that keep things floating, and it's like bzzz, and everything's just floating, and that's what's happening when you're like at work, because you kind of have this activation through I have to, and then
Yeah.
and then you come home and it's like bzzz, boom, and everything
Yeah.
like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
falls on top of each other.
I
And you
yeah,
kind of get
but
buried underneath it all.
yeah, but it's just a description. It's not a solution. So
No, I understand. But what I'm trying to say is the solution is like, how do I say it? Like, if there would not be nothing to lift off of you, you wouldn't need that force field, basically. The problem in first is that there are like these things that bury.
I don't. No, yeah, okay. No, I don't get it. Just try it in other words. I
Okay,
really want to
I will
understand.
try other words. Basically, what drains the most energy is constantly lying to yourself.
Okay.
Constantly tearing
Yeah.
yourself down, constantly lying to yourself, constantly holding on to things that you know actually aren't true.
Mm.
That is what eats your energy. And all I was trying to explain before is when you have to be at work, there is some kind of thing that turns on that kind of like lifts that off of you a little bit, because you have to be at work and kind of function there. And it's like this mechanism. And I know, like, in the beginning, I had my horses to fight my depression, because I would have to go out. I would have to go out each day and feed them and take care of them, because otherwise I wouldn't leave the house, because I was so buried under the depression,
Yeah, so
under the lack of energy and all of these things. So I know what this is. This thing, like, I have given, like, I need this job. I cannot lose this job. This job is quite all right. I have to maintain. And that works in that context.
Yes, of course.
But then as soon as that context is gone, it's like the whole
so
thing.
the solution is to create my own context. Huh?
The solution is to stop lying to yourself and to stop talking yourself down. To stop. Yeah,
but I said it in other words. To create my own positive context.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, you're absolutely right. And then I didn't know if I wanted to post yet another video, because there are thousands of good videos I would like to share, but I only posted it because this was speaking to me, and it was speaking with the same content we are doing here.
Yeah, I saw. I didn't see the video, but I saw what you wrote.
My summary is very brief. If you listen to her, and she said actually the same. So and she was also talking to all the commentators under her videos. She said, "Oh, I read all these comments. Healing isn't possible, and the world is so cruel, and no change is possible, and so on." And why are they writing this? No, so I am here to tell you, use your agency, try to change what you can change, and then you see a little change opens up new possibilities, and imagine you're sitting on your own throne, and everybody who's coming, and so on. She gave some pictures, and it was really speaking to me. This is all I can say. So
but that's a good place to start. Like, indeed, like, first of all, like, if you come home and the energy like collapses again, 7 levels deep, why am I so tired right now? What is it like that I'm really believing? What is it in my core that is like saying, ugh, done? That's one way to go and figure out what's really going on. And then the other one, to start breaking that cycle a little bit, is indeed start focusing much more on positive things, instead of like, oh, my day is now finally done. I can finally be done with this. I can finally shut off. Because they're like,
Mm.
okay, I've done my work. Now I'm home. Now I have the privilege of my own company.
Yes.
And I get to work on this thing that I'm investing in. I get to make my exercises. I get to do my meditation. I get to have my me time. I get to clean my house. And if you start thinking about those things positive rather than, oh no, I have to come home to this house and it's a mess, and then of course all of your energy
This
is
is,
going to be gone.
yeah, this is, yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely right. But yeah, yep.
I
No,
know
but
it's
no,
not an easy thing. And
but very often it's just in the unconscious, and there isn't even a thought. It's just that I'm tired and I don't know why. So, and I have to figure out what's behind it.
then you have to go the 7 levels deep and look, if you're like have to first sleep or do it in a weekend or something.
Yeah.
Find when you can do it, because I get it that it might not be possible to do it when you come home.
Yeah.
But then find when you can get to the bottom of this. That's very important. And it's very important to prioritize that, because think of all the time and the energy you lose by not doing it, you know?
Yeah.
All right. All right then.
Yeah, fine. Thank you very much. That was very good. Yeah, I just want to add one thing. It don't take long. Actually, I did parts work, so it was in my last day in Bangkok. But then that was a situation where I smoked marijuana, so I was told, and then it was working. So it was really working. So
But that's the whole point.
I was free. I was actually free. So and it was very vivid. Yeah.
But that's what plant medicine is supposed to do. It's supposed to open up something or show you something to see that it's possible. Just like with, sometimes you can use plants for, sometimes you had your, when you were young, you went traveling.
It was okay. But now I get the memories that it is possible, so it's a good thing. So
exactly, but it's not supposed to mean you need it all the time to do it.
No, that was not what I'm saying. No, that is absolutely not what I'm saying. And I just want to say this. No. You gave the answer already. I don't have to ask. Fine. Thank you very much. That was very good.
And
you can take it in the recording. It's no problem for me.
All right. See you Wednesday.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.